Hi, welcome to BCI Ask the Experts. I'm Brad White, joined by two good experts today, Dr. Brian Lubers,
Good morning, Brad.
Dr. Philip Lancaster.
Good morning, guys.
We've got a great listener question for you. If you have a listener question for us, you can send it to us at bci@ksu.edu, and our experts will answer it. And they get up to 10 points for their answers. Today's listener question is focused on pregnancy test time, and the question is, should I do a body condition score on my cows at pregnancy test? Brian, I'm going to go to you first.
So I'll say yes. I think, and part of the reason is it's such a low input data point, right? If it's at preg check time, the animals are already coming through the chute. It's not a hard skill to kind of learn and develop, and it's simply recording one more number. So I think simply because it doesn't cost you very much to do it, and it's really not about, is it a 4 or is it a 5? Is it a 5 or a 6? You're looking for the extreme edges, right? And so it gives you something to use, maybe to manage your cows. If you've got a lot of those extreme ones, you're probably going to have to manage them differently, especially going into the winter. Feed resources are tight. You don't want to be spending money on feed for cows that don't need it, and you certainly want to spend it and target it towards the animals that do. So I think it's a valuable number.
Okay, excellent. Brian starts out with 6 points, and I will define, so body condition scores in cows, beef cows, we often go 1 to 9, 1 being very thin, 9 being very fat. That 5, that is where you're in the middle. The 4 would be a little bit thinner. Philip?
So I think it depends on how you want to use it. So it may be like Brian said, it would be a good number to have to find those thinner cows and know if I'm going to need to give them different nutrition going through the winter and get them back in the body condition score for the next year. But it doesn't necessarily tell me how well they bred up the previous year. So it's not very indicative of where they were at the start of the last breeding season or the previous calving season. So it'd be an indicator of how my breed up was. And I could also look at it from a cow selection standpoint too. And this is a little bit iffy, but if I have a cow that's a little thin at preg check or weaning time, does that mean she was a good milker and so she weaned a big calf? So I'm paying attention to the calf too. But if she's fat at weaning time or preg check time, she's probably not producing as much milk as she really should, and paying attention to her calf. Is her calf smaller than average? And so using that as a cull criteria maybe, or which cows I want to keep heifers out of, could be useful.
Okay. So the body condition score gives me some idea, but I have to evaluate it in context. So give me a little bit more of that context, and I'm gonna ask you. And you had 6 points, but your phone went off, so you lost a point. So you got 5 points. But give me some context for evaluating those. What would be my target body condition score at the time of calving for cows and for heifers?
For cows, 5 to 6, and then for heifers, 6. Probably, we're definitely closer to 6. I wouldn't necessarily say 7, but yeah, so about 6. So that would be the target for calving time, because we know they're going to probably lose some body condition between calving and breeding, because that's the peak lactation time, and so then it's hard to keep them in good body condition score during that time. At weaning or preg check at this time of year for a spring calving herd, I probably don't want anybody at a 6, because there probably means that they're not milking the way they should. Again, paying attention to calf weight, weaning weight, and that stuff too. So they should be a little bit thinner if they're putting nutrients in the milk like I want them to.
Okay. And Brian, you mentioned you may use body score for sorting as you go in. Which cows would you want to sort off? Body score of what number?
Yeah, so it's actually both the extremes on both ends, right? So and it depends on how many you have and how many pastures you have, what kind of resources you have, right? But if I have really thin cows, I might want to pull them off even if I have the option to put them in a dry lot and feed them a lot heavier. So I usually, like Philip said, kind of 4s, definitely below 4. So 3s and below for sure, maybe 4s, 7 and above, I'm going to manage those differently.
Okay, you guys are knotted up at 8. For last question, how many pounds does a body score represent? Philip?
80 to 100, depending on cow frame size.
Yeah, I was going to say 75.
Ooh, I was going to say 105. So Philip was closest. So Philip ends up winning. So thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions for us to answer, please send us an email at bci@ksu.edu.